Recently I was thinking about the idea of why I take photos, and I'm pretty sure it interests you too to know, why do you go out and take photos on the street, or why do you build a still life which takes time and effort and make a photo of it in order to get some sort of pleasure. But it's this idea of why do we do it again and again and again. You know, I recently went out looking for a specific shot that I wanted, and it's something that reoccurs in my way of looking at things. I find it very interesting to watch people climbing steps, because when you think about it, all over the city there are lots of different types of steps, and the reason is because we have underground stations, and then also we have maybe the main station where you go up steps and down steps and then up. And so there's lots of ideas, and you know, the shadows that you find around steps are always very soft and gentle, especially in the springtime, the summertime. In the wintertime, the lights are on very often, and it just offers so much opportunity. But I love this idea of taking a photo of a person from different distances, different angles. They're going up the steps, but not coming at me, but they're going away. They're going up, away up the steps. And I just find it extremely interesting. And I recently went out looking for somebody going up the steps, and I wasn't fussy about where those steps were. I really was hoping it was going to be in a station somewhere where they were going to have to climb up the steps, and they were going to go up to a platform where it was sort of open with just a glass dome-like shelter over the top of it. Because that way, as they went up the steps, there'd be more and more natural light coming through, which you can imagine could create a fantastic photo. While I'm out there looking for this shot, which I did get one shot, I got quite a few shots, but one of them was better than all the others. It had something about mystery in it when I got the shot, and it was a lovely black and white shot. As you can see, somebody's climbing the steps, and they look like they're going up to nowhere. And somehow the back of the person and the sky above creates a feeling of mystery. You don't know where they are. They're somewhere in time, and time has very much a lot to do with photography. And this is what I was talking about, is I ask myself so often is, why do we take photos? Why is it so fascinating? Because that is what it is. It's fascinating. And it drives us to want to pick up the camera again and go out and take shots. And the lovely thing is when you walk out the door with a camera, a lens, your favorite camera, and you start going on a jaunt downtown and you're looking for shots, when you leave, you don't know what it is you're going to find. And that's interesting. And what I really think about, you know, about life itself and about photography and about why we do things. We do photography. I know I'll always want a camera and always take photos and experiment with various things. But I don't think it's so much about I want that particular shot, because it will have a meaning for me, but it's because I create the meaning in the photo, or in the idea of getting the photo. I create the meaning, and the meaning gives me the opportunity to experience something. And what I experience, I think very much is that alone is plenty. But what I do experience is that I practice the use of my perception of the world around me. That is, I use my bonds, I use my brain. So I'm thinking, but I'm thinking, and the main sense that I'm using is my eyes. And then my feet are shifting about like a tool. And I find that that is probably a lot about why we take photos. Just like a hell of a lot of people these days, in comparison with the past, they're hell-bent on going to the gym or somewhere and working out and building up their muscle. They do this because it makes them feel great, makes them feel fit, agile, makes them feel competent and ready on a physical plane. And that's just one aspect of life, isn't it? Whereas us, as photographers, and especially street photography, where you can pick up your kit and just get out the door, and you could be out there for hours and just looking and searching and finding, and then again looking and searching and finding, until the point comes where either your eyes, your feet, or your body is so tired that you want to go home and have a lovely cup of tea or something. And I talk about the idea that I create this thought in my mind that I want to go out and take a photo of a person climbing some stairs. It's not the only thing I look for, but I do look for it very often. And the only reason why I began to become interested in it is because it automatically kept reoccurring in my photos. And it's a little bit like the Caspar David Friedrich paintings, who was a late 1700s German painter. And if you ever saw one of his paintings, there were tons of posters. I'm pretty sure in the United States you would see books and posters of his on offer in Britain and also in Germany, of course. But he was like the John Constable of Germany. He was like the John Singer Sargent, in a way, of the United States. Who else can we think of? Homer. If you ever want to see some damn good drawing, and pen and ink, I believe, but mostly pencil drawings of the pioneer days, but not the cowboys, but the people of the United States, pioneer days before the United States, I suppose. Look up the artist Homer, and you're going to find some wonderful things. And by doing that, you'll also become inspired for how people, groups go together, how people just doing their everyday things make beautiful compositions. And really, you just look through the books of artists like Homer. I can't remember his first name, might have been Frederick or something like that, but it's certainly not the Greek writer. It's an American, Homer, and he was in the days of various other painters who also, like Frederick Remington, who painted a lot of cowboys, I believe, from the days of the pioneer days and post-pioneer days. Anyway, you look all that stuff up and you'll see massive groups of people, because they had a very strong sense of symphony in their images in those days. And the individual would be a simple study to do, be a unique idea. I think that apart from myself, I think a lot of other people probably enjoy this, that motive of somebody climbing stairs. But I do know that every time I take that shot, it is unique in itself. It's not a copy of somebody else. I'm not thinking about other photographers who've done similar, and I'm not thinking, oh, I've got to be better than them. I just want to get my shot. And the thing about it is, again, going back to this idea about why do we take photos? It's creating an experience for ourselves, which creates action. And it all came from interest. We took an interest in something. And it's that thing about life, life is an experience. I always believe in the idea that if you ever have to, or if you ever believe that you're going to find the answer to life and why do we live it, or why are we here, that'll be just like looking in the mirror and like a child asking yourself, well, how come I'm here, but I'm also in the mirror? You will never answer this question except for when you get the science out and you start thinking about why your reflection is there. But even when you discover why your reflection is in the mirror of life, it will not give you an answer as to why are we here on this planet. So we don't go into that. And look at my face. I've been around a while, and believe you me, it's not worth trying to do it. Philosophy is a game like photography. It just goes on and you enjoy it. It's an experience, and that's about all you can get from life, is to experience it. But with photography, what we're doing is we're using a particular sense, and that's the sense of perception. We have our eyes, sight, but it's really the sense of perception, and we're practicing it like the bodybuilder in the gym. We're practicing it like the writer who sits and writes and writes and writes to perfect the art of story. We are doing it just like the marathon runner who possibly takes years to get anywhere close to coming in 5th or 6th or 10th, but just again and again. One of these days you're going to take a photo and you're going to blow your own socks off with it and think, my God, it's fantastic. How did that happen? And the only reason that it happened is because you did it and practiced it for probably 4 years. But I'm talking about one day you will take photos and they will be just amazing. And the confirmation that they are amazing is because other people will look at them and also just see they're great. There's nothing better than when other people look at your photos and it catches their eye and they look at it and begin talking about it. I mentioned writers, for example, a writer, an artist, anybody like that. One of the biggest things, that it's not just a compliment, it's actually an achievement, and that is to cause another human being to stop in their tracks and comment on something, because if they do that, they begin to think about it, and for them it then becomes an experience that maybe they haven't had before, and you created that. It's wonderful, and that's well worth doing in life, and it's well worth working towards that with all your motivation and interest, and honing your eyes or the perception in your brain to be able to take really, really lovely, beautiful photos. And whatever style you follow, you know, that's up to you, and that's you. If you look around, and that's why I'm always encouraging people to really get the art books out and get the photography books out and start looking through them. Even go to galleries and just browse around. And when you're in a gallery, you know, you are not obliged to look at every single painting that's hanging on the wall. Look at the ones that really speak to you, and you're going to learn from them. Paintings are something that every photographer should look at. The artists of those days, the painters, you know, throughout the history of art, you know, they were trying this, they were trying that, all types of different techniques. They were also experimenting with their pigments and oils, and they got different effects. And so therefore, what they were doing was trying to depict reality. Before the 1950s, they were trying to depict reality in a way that it would be a wonderful experience for the viewer, for the person looking at the painting. And it's the same thing with photography. It's learning that triad of ideas of how to use your ISO, how to use your shutter speed, and how to choose the right depth of field. And the combinations of three things, you know, they always create an opportunity to experiment forever, you know, throughout a lifetime. And the same with the artists who mix different types of oils, but different levels of oils and pigment to get different depths and reflections. Like their depth of field would come from how much and what type of oil they would mix with the pigment. And so you look at something and you think, wow, it's like glass, or it's like looking deeply into a shadow. And, you know, they were trying to get the same effect that we get when we're checking out how to adjust our f-stop to a f22, or do we want a 1.8 to 1.4 or whatever, in order to get that depth of field. I think one of the ideas for me personally is that because I do actually write, and I write short stories, I love that, and therefore I love character, and all my stories are character-driven stories. There's always somebody in there. Either a very serious, somber character, or somebody who is a villain or a criminal, or somebody who is basically someone to be laughed at. But an individual character can drive something. And so when we're out there taking photos, I think I've got the same sort of mentality as when I'm telling stories. I'm looking for people on the street who stick out a little bit, who are a bit different, you know. It could be the way they're dressed. And I think that's the reason why when I'm looking for something like a motive of a person climbing the stairs, I might be looking for something, you know, very human in them. And when I think about that, the other day I was taking photos out by the central station, and a wind was howling and it was freezing cold. And I stood on the plats, and like a good old street photographer, I was pretending I was mucking about with my camera, but the whole time out the corner of my eye, I saw this woman sitting with said some sort of Coca-Cola drink in her hand or something like that. And she was wrapped up in all types of, you know, clothing with scarves, and she had bags all over her, and she had this shopping bag close to her. And it interested me as to why she would be sitting there in the freezing cold when she didn't look like she was waiting for anybody. She looked like she was going anywhere. She looked like she just wanted to stop and have a cold drink in a cold weather. And I just estimated everything and set my camera up, and then I turned, took a shot directly at her. Then I had to take another one just to be sure. And at that moment she turned and she sort of looked in my direction. And the two shots, you know, it's the one where she looks over into my direction. I'm not sure if she was looking at me or not, but she had this look on her face which was so human. And it was, to put it in British English, she was looking very pissed off and cold. And so I'm so glad I got that shot. It's when you're out and about and you see things like that, that you're so pleased later that you got that shot. It's not a mind-blowing shot, but it's a lovely shot. and there's human emotion in it. And the same thing can happen when you don't see the face. People think that if you take shots of people from behind, what's that going to do? But you're seeing body language. So if you check body language out, and I don't mean, you know, sort of business style body language, I mean real stuff that, you know, an author might think of in order to make a person more characteristic. And so if you're looking at people and seeing how they're acting, like if you saw a couple of lovers meet on the street, you have a look and see which one is trying hardest to impress the other person. And it gives you an interest in what's going on. And if you're smart enough and quick enough and not too invasive, you could get a shot of these two lovers on the street talking. And it's later when you get home and you check out your photos that you might just discover that you picked up some sort of language in the face or in the hands, you know, the way people move their hands around, that gives you a fantastic shot. It's a common thought for many people who are involved in an activity that requires a lot of motivation and a lot of time, is why do I do this? So that's what I was talking about, is that, like I say, I've been around long enough to know that there's always an answer to everything. And you could say, because I like doing it. That's a good answer. But to really dig deep and try and find out the real reason why we as human beings find forms and photographs and images of great interest, you're never going to find the answer to that. But what you will find an answer to is the idea that, quite simply, that it is a very enjoyable experience, and it's a growing experience. And so therefore something's happening in your life when you're taking photos, and at the same time what you're really doing, because you want to get better, you want to take great shots, and you're also a bit like a hunter looking for a fantastic composition on the street there somewhere, that you are practicing the art of perception. And so if you keep your interest up, but peaked up, through reading about photography, photographers, by going to galleries and looking at art exhibitions of painters, so that you're getting a contrast about how do the painters deal with images, because much of what they paint comes from real life too. And what a street photographer does is stands right in front of life. And sometimes as a street photographer, you can feel like a king or a queen on a throne surveying their own kingdom. And you take those shots and you feel so happy and relaxed and so satisfied when one or two of the shots turn out to be humdingers, great shots. So I really hope the weather's changing soon, and you and I, we can get out there and do some great street photography. I've got big plans for all types of city photography. So all the best, and until the next time, thanks a lot. Sean Durham in Berlin. Bye-bye.